Be your weird selves.
What do you mean just be our weird?
You're weird?
No,
You're very weird.
I'm super chill.
Welcome to Mended Light. I'm Alicia Decker, CEO.
And I'm Jonathan Decker, minion and licensed therapist. No, I'm a co-founder, dang it. Woo! What are we doing today?
I like Minion. I could get you little Minion goggles. It could be fun.
What?
So,
This is TTherapistsSay, where we talk about ridiculous things that therapists have said that our fans have submitted. They can't believe the therapist said this. And I'm going to respond with what a good therapist would say.
because you're a good therapist.
Apparently.
So, individual therapy is terrible for marriage.
Is individual therapy bad for marriage? It depends. It depends on what the issue is. Is it a couple's issue?
Right. Under what circumstance is individual therapy good for marriage? And in what circumstance is individual therapy not serving to a marriage? Because most people don't realize, and frankly, I didn't realize this either until I was married to you, like there's different types of therapists. There's psychologists, there's psychiatrists, there's professional counselors, there's social workers, they're marriage and family therapists. And it's marriage and family therapists are trained in family systems.
Correct.
And I've heard you say so many times, like if there's a mental health issue, a psychologist can be very helpful, but so often the mental health issues do influence, or always they influence and affect the family dynamics.
And vice versa, the family dynamics affect the mental health, right? And so sometimes it's hard to know. You'll get psychologists doing couples therapy, even though their specialty is individual mental health therapy. You'll get LMFTs like me doing individual therapy. And a lot of times therapists are just like, I just want clients. So yes, I can treat your problem. So how do you know what's the best fit? The first thing I would say is that nobody exists in a vacuum. But if your issue is primarily mental health, it's best to do individual therapy, right?
With someone who specializes
in mental health. If your specific need is trauma, then individual therapy can be, actually in that case it could be individual or family. Is the trauma family rooted? And even if it's not, so here's my bias. I studied psychology because I figured psychology was a great foundation. That's what I got my bachelor's in. I pivoted to marriage and family therapy, and I'll tell you why. And you'll get different answers from different therapists. But to me, every issue, like I could work with someone individually, but then they would go home and still have to live with their family, still have to live with their spouse. And that could all be undone at home. Everything that we did in the session could be undone at home.
Because the family spouse doesn't have the new tools that you're teaching this individual.
Correct. And so from my perspective, mental health symptoms can be improved or maintained or worsened based on what's going on at home, which is why I became a couples and family therapist, because I figure even if it's an individual issue, having the support of others is key, because a therapist sees you an hour a week, right? Or an hour every couple of weeks, and the people who live with you are there full time.
Right.
That said, there's a lot of power in individual therapy because I can speak my mind without upsetting somebody. I finally have a place to vent this, and I finally have a place to get feedback without somebody else whispering in my ear or getting defensive or getting upset. When it comes to couples, I've seen couples who say, we just want to work on ourselves first, and then we'll work on our marriage. My bias is that if you are having conflict in your marriage that you are getting stuck on resolving, if there's infidelity, if there's lying, if there's deceit, if there's abuse, that is you might want to consider you need to work on it as a couple or as a family. Because what's going to happen is if you're doing individual therapy here and you're doing it here, you might be pulling in different directions. Your therapist could be guiding you in different directions, and it's not going to coalesce.
Even if you're seeing the same therapist.
Yes. Well, that's up to the therapist. I've had situations where I will do couples therapy and then I'll do individual therapy and then bring them back in, right? And we'll alternate.
Kind of split up your time.
Because in the same hour or across the month, because that is part of that specific treatment plan. When it comes to I'm dealing with depression, I'm dealing with anxiety, I'm dealing with mental illness, schizophrenia, all sorts of things, or I'm dealing with addiction, then you might want to lean into individual therapy that loops in your significant other, your family once in a while. because the primary focus is not the relationships, in which case go ahead and work on yourself, but it shouldn't just be you. Like I would always say, if I'm seeing somebody for individual therapy, I want their family members there at least once a month. Because that's how I roll.
Go home, see your friends, your family.
So the time that it's imperative to do couples or family therapy is when it's a couples or family issue.
Yes.
There's a high level of conflict in the marriage. That's not the time where you say, okay, let's break you apart. Let's see separate therapists.
Right.
Because you're still in the same boat. You're still in the same marriage, but it's getting directed different directions.
Yes. And here's an issue that I see is in a couple situation, one spouse saying, you're the problem.
Right.
You're the one who needs help. Go get help.
Right.
But if we're having conflict and I'm the problem, then what's going to end up happening is I'm the only one who's going to be working on improving. And we're stuck in this victim perpetrator mode, right?
We're not on the same team.
We're not on the same team where you're and where I'm forever trying to tweak myself to meet your standards and you are scot-free. You are...
There's not an accountability. It's not a two-way street of improvement.
Right. And in therapy, this is known as the identified patient. The identified patient is the person that everyone agrees is the problem. And this person comes to believe that they are because everyone's saying it, all their family and everything. But a trained therapist is going to realize, no, everyone's just kind of identified you as the problem so they don't have to deal with their own stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So we might have a situation where parents are fighting all the time, and now the parents are on the verge of divorce, and now the teen starts spray painting and sleeping around and using drugs, and now the parents are united in their concern for the teenager. And they get to tell themselves, if this teenager were behaving appropriately, we wouldn't have problems. The only reason we fight is because we're so stressed out about them. And then everyone kind of agrees this person's the problem. The issue with that is they'll come to therapy and they'll say, fix him, right? Or fix her. And the original impetus for the child acting out isn't addressed.
Yeah.
And it comes from, we don't like to look at ourselves. We don't like our behavior to be our responsibility. We want to hand it off to somebody else.
This is your problem. Fix it.
We want a scapegoat. The willingness to take accountability. Well, and the willingness to take accountability, but so often there's not even an awareness, right? Of behavior patterns and then the ripple effects that they're having.
Right. We tend to be much more observant of the behaviors of other people and how they're affecting us versus our behaviors and how they're affecting other people.
Right.
And even when we recognize we're out of line or we're not acting according to the self that we want to be, we're still prone to say, well, the only reason I'm so angry all the time is because of you, right? Or the only reason that I'm having this problem is because you're having that problem. And if you could fix yourself, then I'd be okay.
I'm definitely responsible for your behavior.
Absolutely. I'm glad you see it. So
you're responsible for it.
And so what the therapist said, individual therapy is harmful for marriage, isn't strictly speaking true. It can be less effective if what is needed is marriage counseling.
Right.
Or if what is needed is family counseling.
Right. So in what circumstances is individual therapy might be more effective or more efficient? And your bias is like, I'd still like to see the family like once a month. I'd still like to continue the conversation with everyone. But when is it predominantly individual?
If it's individual substance abuse, if it's things like depression, anxiety, so there's mental disorders and there's personality disorders. And personality disorders tend to be more about behavior, tend to be more about interactions, tend to be more about how you treat people. And even though those around you aren't responsible for a personality disorder, it becomes a dance, right?
There are ways that they can support you. There are ways they can be aware of what's going on.
So if I have, for example, borderline personality disorder means that I want closeness, but I'm terrified of it.
Right.
Right. And so I'm constantly, even subconsciously, sabotaging my close relationships because people tell me that they love me and they're there for me, and I'm testing to see if they actually will be, because I want to feel safe. And so I end up pushing people away, and then when they leave, it confirms I'm worthless, I'm pathetic, and I go into this depressed cycle. And so borderline personality disorder often has its start in childhood and early age. But if I'm
Usually from a lack of stability.
And if I am in an adult relationship now, my partner didn't cause this, but I'm lashing out in anger, so they get angry back because they don't understand what's going on and they think they're defending themselves. So with a personality disorder, I would advocate, and you might get a different opinion from different therapists, but I would advocate individual therapy supplemented by family therapy, because personality disorders show up in major ways in relationships.
Right.
Mental disorders do as well, but it's less about the interaction and more just about how I'm thinking and feeling and how that affects you. Whereas personality disorders is very much our interplay. But if it's mental disorder, if it's substance abuse, even sometimes grief and bereavement can be best served by individual therapy. If it's conflict resolution, if it's infidelity, if it's abuse, if it's life transitions, failure to launch for a young man or young woman. These are the sorts of things that are best dealt with in couples therapy and family therapy.
And if you've enjoyed this video, check out...
You have.
Indeed. Check out You Can't Heal Broken Relationships, they said.
It's another one of these Shit Therapist Said videos that we know you're going to enjoy. Wow, therapists are wacky, aren't they?
Bless their hearts. Just bless them.
Now, if you're wondering what your mental health fitness is, what are your strengths and where are you struggling, we have an assessment tool down below that you can take to find out exactly what your needs are. And maybe we can support you because we're good at that. So until next time, like, subscribe, click the bell. If you're not clicking the bell, you're not getting the notifications and you're going to miss some of this juicy, delicious goodness that we're throwing your way. So until next time, keep shining because we need your light. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, hey, you've harmonized pretty good. That was good. Go. We're gonna start karaokeing now.
No.
Yes.